I always wait to watch a festival come up and then wait for a festival to come down, because it looks so incredible to look at a space and be like, this didn't exist here 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
It just wasn't here. I was 21 and Rohan was 36, and there was absolutely no reason for him to pretend like he was entertaining things that he knew more about. But I think he gave me a lot of space to sort of build a voice for myself and to learn, to fail, and at the stage that both of them were at there in their careers, I think making that space for someone and saying, you know what, if you make a mistake, it's okay and we'll figure it out. You call me, you tell me you made a mistake, is a lot. Because at 21, I love you both, but like I was still learning too, and I know you know that, right? So everyone was at different places in their careers at that point, right? So when you have like a Rohan who was making his comeback to comedy, and then you have a Rahul and a Nishant who just won Comicstan because this was 2018, you know, and you have a Shankar and a Sejal, and you have, everyone is just in different places, so what they need is different, both emotionally, mentally, in terms of their career advice. So yeah, I mean, I think I've been very, very lucky and blessed that I got a chance to do what I got a chance to do when I did. So.
Hi, Meher.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good so far. How was the journey till here?
Amazing. I've discovered parts of Delhi that I did not know.
I mean, even I did.
Fair enough, yeah. It was fun.
Okay. So, I'll just start off by telling you how did I discover you.
Okay.
So,
this is interesting.
Me and him are huge fans of Ritviz.
Okay.
And Ritviz had given you a shout out. This was Women of Music India.
Yes.
So, that was one video where I had discovered you. This was, I think, a couple of years back.
Yeah, 24.
24.
Yeah.
And then what happened was I was going through Abnormal Studios portfolio as an inspiration.
Okay.
I was going through their site and I saw that you were running anArtizen.
Okay.
That's when I, went through your LinkedIn, your website, and found out that you are building something so cool.
Thank you so much. Also, shout out to Ravya and Sanya, because that's how that happened. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So, if you could, in your own words, tell me what anArtizen is all about.
Okay. Do you want the long story or the short story? Essentially, okay, I'll try and make them meet somewhere in the middle. But essentially, in 2018 is when I joined the entertainment industry full time, right? I'd done a couple of internships before that, and for context, I'm also a dancer.
Yeah.
So I've been in the industry in different shapes and forms since I was about 4 years old. That's when I started dancing. That's when I started like trying to get into it. Obviously, as you grow older, you explore it differently. So I think my dance journey had kind of already shown me that there were certain gaps in just access, opportunity, landscape. Because when I was growing up, there were 2 dance companies that were doing contemporary or jazz or whatever. And obviously classical schools have a very different trajectory entirely. And I went through my journeys of like finding, looking for answers to questions that I had when I was a child, and not finding information that was accurate to what the Indian landscape was. So a lot of like Western publications on dance, or like, Point magazine and Dance magazine and all of that. And they were beautiful resources, but all of them weren't sort of catering to the West. So when I wanted answers, I had to like find one teacher who had the right answer that I needed to hear at that time. And it was a bit of a long journey. And then college happened, internships happened. I started working in the entertainment industry in like small ways. And then 2018 happened. And when I moved to Bombay, I joined OML, and I started working in the comedy sector, of which at the time I knew nothing. I did not even know like, it's actually pretty crazy, but I feel like I used to live under a rock because I didn't even really know. I mean, obviously, Kanan, Biswa, everyone had seen Pretentious and this, that, whatever, but I hadn't really been like a comedy fan. So I was kind of figuring out the industry. And in all of that confusion, I used to get calls from people like younger comics or whatever, people who wanted to enter the industry or wanted an open mic or whatever. And I was very confused because I was like, dude, I just joined comedy. I know nothing. You've been doing this 4, 5, 6 years longer than I have. So why are you calling me? And at that point, I realized that just everybody was struggling. It wasn't a dance thing. It wasn't a music thing. It wasn't a comedy thing. It was just a industry-wide thing of people.
All across art.
All across. Everybody has their own battle that they're fighting. It could look different. Obviously, from music to dance, there are different challenges. From dance to comedy, there are different challenges. But everybody was asking questions that nobody really had the answers to sometimes. And so at that point, I decided that I would turn Artizen was always a dream. I started thinking about it when I was a kid, but at that point, I decided, okay, cool, I want to make it into something that's a little bit more formal and structured. And the idea was to basically initially just solve for information and access, which was how do you get information that is culturally and like Indian industry-wise relevant, and how do you open doors for people who maybe don't have the same kind of access, right? Like for me being at OML, people were looking at me and saying, okay, just because I operate at an agency that is of that scale, I must have the answers. Or if I don't have the answers, I'll know who to call. And that is a very like third degree of separation kind of approach to it, right? Like I'll call you, then you'll call this one, then you'll call that one. And then by the end of it, we're all playing Chinese whispers. So Artizen was built off of the back of that. How do you open the doors? How do you get the right information from the right people? And how do you learn more about it so that we're not constantly doing 0 to 1? And that was the very long version.
Okay. So let's take this as a 20-year-old beatboxer or musician who's trying to build their career in this space.
Yeah.
Wants to go all in with this.
Yeah.
And he or she comes to anArtizen. What does the user journey look like for them? Because I have seen you have the project Huddle, that's for sessions and guidance.
Yeah.
You have your own content, but how does the user journey look like for them?
So I think that, and we are also super nascent, right? Like, so there are things that I'm also building step by step. This year, hopefully, we'll see a lot more levels to this, right? Right now, for us, the podcast was number one because it was just the idea that there is no one way, right? So there are so many people who have, and you guys must have seen this yourselves, of just everyone you speak to seems to have like a different way of how they've navigated. So to us, that became like a melting pot of saying, take what fits for you and your journey and then make it, right? Make it your own, find ways to adapt it to your context. And then Project Huddle is almost like step 2 of that, right? Which is, I now kind of know. And now, honestly, with the amount of tools we have available, whether it's AI, it's like whatever, just generally even Googling things, I feel like people are talking about these things a lot more. So once you've done a little bit of your groundwork of understanding, and I think that is fundamental, like no matter how many podcasts I put up, no matter how many like sessions you do with someone, unless you are just like aware and open to information that is coming your way, or you can look for it, you will not benefit from it the same way. So know what you're doing, know what your like space is, like what your specific questions are, and then come to Huddle. And essentially the idea of Huddle is that it is one-on-one. You have a form that you have to fill up because we take it very seriously in terms of matching the right people on both sides, right? So this is not meant to be like an open-ended conversation. If it's a young beatboxer, then let's say you want to talk to somebody who works in distribution and you are not being able to figure out how to get your song to the right people, then do you want to talk to a distributor? Do you want to talk to a manager? You find the right person for your question. Tell us why you want to talk to them, and we'll connect you And so it's a fairly simple user journey in that sense. But I think a little bit of groundwork, a lot of listening, and then figuring out why and who you want to speak to.
Okay. So I had two things come into my mind after, getting to know more about this. First thing is that there are some platforms like TopMate.
Sure.
So those platforms also offer one-to-one consultations. But where I feel personally Huddle would be a killer is that you have the connections with the right people in the art industry.
Sure.
TopMate is something way more common and generalized.
Yeah.
So is that what makes it a major differentiator?
100%. Also, honestly, I'm not, and maybe this is a today kind of conversation, and my answer might change in 2 years. But I honestly don't think that I was trying to position this as a competitor to anything. And I'll tell you why. Because the thing is, in this industry, the more forums and platforms that we have where people have access to a wider set of people, the better. Because in any case, look at the ratio, right? Like, look at the numbers of the people who want to become artists, musicians, whatever, to the number of managers, to the number of, I don't know, like people who work in the music industry, A&R heads, whatever. It is massively skewed. There is no way in hell that alone I will be able to make sure every child sitting in this country has access to the right person. And I think that all of us will have different USPs and different ways to solve the same problem. And it's happening, right? Like someone will release a, I don't know if you're aware of this, but during the pandemic, one of my biggest inspirations was Swedish House Mafia's manager, Amy Thompson. She released a unedited book, self-published, on her website called Artist Management 101 or something, okay? And it was so beautiful because it was like raw. It had not gone through anyone, but I was like, okay, that's her way of helping the next generation of managers. Text. It's a heavy read, but like, that's her way of reaching out. My way of reaching out was to be able to create this. And I don't even think that I have all the answers, which is why I didn't want to look at it as like a artisan is Meher and Rahul at some point, or Nucleya at some point, or whatever, just being people who feed it, right? I wanted it to be people who actually had the know-how. That was my way of feeding it. If I'm not sure what TopMate's model is, but I feel like if there's somebody who's doing the more generic, the groundwork that I was talking about as a course, as information, 100%, So for me, this becomes the USP for us, as you rightly pointed out, is the fact that it is very concentrated industry information. But like I said, you'll probably be able to make the best of that once you've done a little bit of your own groundwork research, right? So if there's someone who has a more generalized approach to it, this would then supplement that even more, if that makes sense.
And I have a story to share actually. So briefly, for like 1.5 years, I used to work with a few creators in order to help them manage their accounts and just act as their management.
Right.
Creators with 500 50k to 100k followers, and a couple of artists as well, the beatboxer I mentioned. So he was from our city, he was one of the best beatboxers to be there. And what happened was at that time I hadn't discovered much about anArtizen or anything. To be honest, this Mimmi tour was happening in Bhubaneswar. So I thought, what I could do? I just texted Rahul that, hey, I have this great beatboxer with me. Since your show is happening, could you give him a 5-minute spot on the stage? He has performed in all these many places. What happened was Rahul scheduled a call, but again, it didn't happen ultimately. He got busy, and then, we couldn't figure things out. And one of the main reasons was that we did not have a right connection. I had just cold messaged him. We had no connection before that. And a couple of weeks later, the same thing happened in another city at the same tour. And that person was a part of the sponsorship team.
Oh, very cool.
So how do you see artists navigating and building in these circumstances? If I am a budding artist, at this point, I can just do, open mics, like the music open mics are there.
Yeah.
I could maybe at max those college events and fairs, I could just build some traction over there. But do you feel like the followers and those aspects have to play a lot of role in getting these opportunities?
I think that a lot of us have like a love-hate relationship with the idea of followers and digital media and what that means, right? But I cannot sit here today and tell you that it doesn't matter at all. I think there's some incredible artists who have made the most of social media and have really like Gini.
Yeah.
Okay, I love what she does with her Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because that is who she is in real life. It's just the way she's managed to like mobilize that support, and it's matched with an incredible performer. It's not like Gini on social media is a better performer than Gini on stage, right? Like as a musician, that is who she is all in all. I think that with as far as opportunities are concerned, my personal take is that I think that we became lazy in the middle. As musicians, as managers, as artists, whatever, where we started relying only on digital media and stopped paying as much attention to like the old school ways of doing things. If you're a young entrepreneur, for example, you will still write 200-300 VCs before you secure even like the possibility of pitching for funding, right? You still have a LinkedIn, you still have whatever, but you will take the effort of customizing a deck and changing it for the person that you're reaching out to, and you will really have to like send it to everybody in the world in an old school kind of way, right?
Yeah.
Digital media and Instagram and stuff, I think is a tool, and if you use it well, you're right, and people will pay attention and people will take notice just by sheer volume of like the consumption that is taking place. But I also think that like if you really want to make a mark for yourself, there's just other things that you will have to also supplement it with. There is no, I mean, you were talking about cold calling.
Yeah.
It is one of the most uncomfortable things in the world. Okay, like honestly, and it is one of the most like hope-sucking things in the world because a lot of people will not respond or there's rejections or whatever. But in a lot of ways, it's also that thing of like the 1% success story, right? Like the more you send it out, the higher your chances to hear back, and that is the same for artists. Today I'm helping a younger visual artist who's a friend, and she literally on the way here she just messaged me saying, hey, should we like send out a bunch of these emails to like brands for partnerships? And I was like 100%, because we have to. There's nothing I can do to replace that. Digital, does it help if she has more followers? Maybe, because at the end of the day, every brand wants visibility. So if I pit two artists against each other and I say, okay, this one has 100k followers, this one has 50k followers, their art is roughly about the same, they have roughly the same thing to say about the world, whatever, which is never going to happen, but whatever, then I might go for this one. But if I want, and it also depends on who's choosing. So there are, like Weekender, for example, as a festival, doesn't care as much about numbers as it cares about discoverability of music, because their thing is, how do I be the festival where I discover new talent? And you'll find a bunch of people like that in the industry. You'll find, like you said, open mics. You'll find a lot of promoters who are paying attention to younger talent that they can program in such a way that it supplements the headlining act as well as grows the younger set of people. So I think that it's not purely like if I have 100k followers or 1 million followers, I made it. I could have 1 million followers, be a terrible performer live and never get a live opportunity again. But I could have 10k followers and be an incredible performer and get noticed by somebody in the right way and grow organically. And that's very much a possibility. So to answer your question, I think that like rounding yourself out as an artist is far more important than just being an incredible social media presence, right? Like, especially if you're a musician or a dancer or like a performing artist of whatever kind. I was saying that it should be a little bit more well-rounded as an artist. That's the most important thing. You can't have one and not have the other. Even at the highest scale, you watch at any musician scale that you're looking at, you know, like people who you look up to and you're like, this person has made it. There's still a team at the back end that is reaching out and negotiating things with festivals, with promoters. All it doesn't go away. The proportion changes, right? Like I might have more incoming queries than outgoing queries if I'm very, very successful.
Right.
But somebody is still finding opportunities, and that it doesn't change. Otherwise, relevance moves. You could be super, super successful, and you're not putting in the effort to stay relevant. Your career will plateau at some point, right? So I think that is important. It's not just numbers, it's not just one thing, but if you're able to like make sure that you are building a trajectory for yourself that is rounded, that you're reaching out to people, and it will be painful, but you're reaching out to people. You're doing things that are maybe offline and on ground, and you're interacting with people differently. You're obviously creating the kind of content in the music, and I honestly think that there are enough people in India that no matter what you do or what kind of art you create, there will be some audience for it. If it's one person or a million people, that's different. But the fact is that I'm sure, what kind of music do you listen to?
So indie music, then mostly pop.
Yeah, okay. I'm an indie girl, but I'm also like a old school rock girl. If a band, I know friends of mine who would never listen to old school rock, but are pure hip hop fans. Who is to say what is going to work? So I think that if you're able to double down on what you're building and then create like your own ecosystem for it, which includes numbers because it's a push, I think that people will find you eventually.
Okay. So something that came to my mind is if a management or an agency discovers an artist, and I'll take an example of someone you must be knowing of, Dorwin John.
Okay.
So I think Dorwin got discovered by
Rahul, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love his music. I have been following him since 2021.
100%, dude. He's one of my favorite acts.
He's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
So who takes the next step of helping that artist build? Because building your career also requires resources.
Yeah.
And it's money intensive.
Right.
So how does that happen behind the scenes?
Between a manager and an artist?
Management and artist. When they are building, when they have not made
it. I mean, you're building constantly.
Yeah.
But when you've not made it, I think that it kind of depends on the management that you're moving towards, right? Like, for example, I think Rahul, when he discovered Dorwin, is the kind of person who does not really think of the investment that has to go into something. He thinks vision. So if Rahul wants to build something which hopefully will stand the test of like 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Right now, everything that he's building is a small price to pay for that, right? So I think when, and because you've raised Dorwin, like let's just focus on that for a second. Everything from like the initial plan or like the resources that are required, the initial capital to it, which is not normally, not every management deal looks like that, right? Because as managers, you are not a label. You're not, you are actually making 15% or 20% or whatever of what your artist is making. So it's not like money is, I mean, you're taking bets essentially on the fact that somebody you believe in is going to make it and is going to work. And when they make it, that 15% or 20% will be worth something, so you can recuperate all your investments. But I mean, at that point, I think it kind of depends on the management you find. There will be people who will, I think most of the managers that I've met today, if they're taking a bet on you, then they're willing to like put in a little bit of that investment from their end also. and then sort of work backwards. But it depends on the scale of the agency you're working with also. If you're an independent manager and someone comes up to you and you make it work in the beginning, you may not have the same ability to just redirect capital from one to the other, right? But a lot of agencies that I've now met, whether it's Blueprint, it's like I know what Blueprint is doing with Maan today is beautiful, or with what Molfa does with Gini. I think that it sometimes is just like an added push of making sure that investment is routed in a certain manner. Somebody is accountable for how and what that money is that's being spent. Where is it being directed? And then it sort of goes back to a regular management deal of just like, finding opportunities, finding shows. I think the most important thing we just ignore is strategy. And I think for the younger artists, that's what this plays out to be. But it comes sometimes with like an added benefit of someone actually being your investor, theoretically.
Yeah.
I love these startup analogies. Sorry, continue. But does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So you must have worked with so many cool artists like over the years, since you were telling me about working with comedians and musicians.
Best.
So if you could name some of them that you have worked with.
Okay. I mean, Ritviz, of course. Nucleya.
Okay, you have worked with Nucleya?
Yeah, of course. Udin was an incredible person.
He's an incredible person.
We just shot a podcast with him.
Oh, with him.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll be out soon.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, but he's amazing. I mean, I started out in comedy, so my first artists to ever be assigned to me individually were, and I've never been more grateful for two people, and I've said this on, I think, our podcast as well, but Rohan, Joshi, Ashish Shakya, I will say this again and again, I think they are two of the most incredible people to work with.
Rohan is incredible. I have met him.
Both of them are just absolute, like...
Yeah.
I think the clarity with which they approach their careers, and obviously they've had their own learnings and things, but I think the clarity with which they do their work, the respect they have for people around them. I was 21 and Rohan was 36, and there was absolutely no reason for him to pretend like he was entertaining things that he knew more about, but I think he gave me a lot of space to sort of build a voice for myself and to learn, to fail, and at the stage that both of them were at there in their careers, I think making that space for someone and saying, you know what, if you make a mistake, it's okay and we'll figure it out. You call me, you tell me you made a mistake, is a lot, because at 21, I love you both, but like I was still learning too, and I know you know that, right? So, yeah, I think I owe them a lot. But yeah, I mean, man, the comedy roster was different. I think I learned so much from all of my artists. There's like, at OML, there were 14 people on my roster individually at some point, and there's so much. Rahul Dua, Nishant Suri, incredible people, incredible artists. And I think just everybody you work with, any level, any stage of their career, you learn so much. Shankar Chogani, Sejal Bhatt, everyone was at different places in their careers at that point, right? So when you have like a Rohan who was making his comeback to comedy, and then you have a Rahul and a Nishant who just won Comic Stan because this was 2018, and you have a Shankar and a Sejal, and you have, everyone is just in different places, so what they need is different, both emotionally, mentally, in terms of their career advice. So yeah, I mean, I think I've been very, very lucky and blessed that I got a chance to do what I got a chance to do when I did. So yeah.
And what I could see from your LinkedIn was what you have studied was quite different.
So different. Oh my God.
But you were telling me that you had something for art since you were 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was it because of that you entered ANI, or?
I actually don't know why I entered what I entered. I think that in life there's like instinct about certain things. And And to be honest, I was having a great time exploring the creative industry. I studied politics, philosophy, and economics, for context, at Ashoka. Very, very academically rigorous course. I wanted to minor in math at some point, which is a whole other story. But I think I've always been academically inclined. But of course, I grew up as a dancer. Nobody in my house does anything even remotely connected to the entertainment world.
Okay.
My sister is a journalist, and that is the closest that we are coming to like creative industries. So I had no idea, but I started dancing when I was 4, and obviously I fell in love with that. I still dance, touch wood. And it was just one of those things where, of course, you watch shows being built and you watch how people create. And when I was 16, I set up like a fundraiser, which was just music and theatre for like children with cancer.
That's so cool.
It was amazing. I was not 12, but that's but it was amazing. And I think that I realized early on that, and I'm sure you'll relate to this, that there are parts of us as certain people that we are that just enjoy watching things come to life differently and building things differently. And I think that part of me was very very prominent by the time I was in college, right? And so my first internship was at a weddings company.
Okay.
Then I interned at a production house. I did one internship in all the 3 years of my academics where I assisted a professor on like a research project and stuff. And I realized I love it. I loved IR, I loved international relations, I loved all of that. But a part of me was just very, very happy on site and like working with people in this industry and watching things come alive. And like, there's a beautiful feeling. I don't know if, I'm sure you guys have seen this with the events you do. I always wait to watch a festival come up and then wait for a festival to come down, because it looks so incredible to look at a space and be like, this didn't exist here 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
It just wasn't here. I went for a Pratik Kohar concert like 3 years ago, I think, and I went to meet someone who was working at the festival after everyone had left, and I'm backstage, and then I was coming out, and by the time I came out, everything had started, right? The dismantling and the VIP areas are gone entirely. There's no whatever, and I was just looking around. I was like, dude, this place looks so different, and I think that feeling is addictive. That feeling of like looking at enabling an artist to do what they do, and enabling a space to become something else, and enabling a brand to be able to tell a story differently. Just the idea of creation is addictive. And as much as I studied something entirely different, I think dance gave me that very early on, but then all of the work experiences, and they happened so randomly. I was in college, and someone I worked with there was a center on campus, and they needed help with an event. So I was helping them, and I met this girl who was, I doubt she'll ever listen to this, but if she does, then Prerna, you have changed my life. We were at campus, and she said, listen, the event's done and whatever, and she said, listen, if you're ever looking for a job, there's a company in Bombay called OML, and I have done some work with them in the past, and I think you would be very happy there. I moved to Bombay for dance school initially after college, and things happened in my life and things shifted, and I started looking for a job. I've applied to exactly one company because I knew nothing else, which was OML. And here we are, 10 years later. I mean, not 10 years, 8 years later. So I don't think it was as much of a conscious decision as just realizing that I liked operating in this space. I liked being able to watch people do what they were doing and get to be a part of that. And my academics have helped. My brain works in a certain way because I studied what I did and because I existed with those people. So I don't think that, I think everything comes together retrospectively.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you must have, been behind the scenes for a lot of shows, concerts, and like you were telling, like it's a lot different. I have been to the backstage only a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
next time you come with me. Yeah.
But even then, it was totally noticeable. Like, how different is it? Like last time I was at Indian Sneaker Fest, this was Ritvaz and Karan Kanchan.
Right.
So backstage, it's all just artists hanging out. There's vanities, and at the same time, they are handling all of those massive production. It's all dismantling at the same time, and on the front of the side, you see nothing of those things, and it's all party going on.
Yeah, very smooth.
What's been some of your greatest experiences backstage? Any crazy experiences or
Crazy in what way? Honestly, I don't think that anyone you meet is going to tell you crazy experiences from backstage, because all of us are just so like things are moving so quickly.
Right.
You don't get time to process backstage. You're just like, हाँ चल रहा है, पहुंच गया, ये हो गया, सामान आ गया, बैंड चाहिए किसी को, चल उसको जाके ये दे दे. That's all that's happening backstage. But I mean, I don't think it's I don't know, like I think that in general, in terms of work, there were a couple of things that I always like stood out. To me, being backstage at Weekender is probably one of the greatest feelings. I went back right now and I was like, this is, I think for a lot of us in the industry, is home. So being backstage and watching it get built is always just like really nice. But I don't know what Mirch Masala you're looking for, my friend. So I don't know, crazy, I don't know, dude. Like, I think that everyone's really just, there's a lot of like things that you have to figure out. Like, I think YouTube Fan Fest, we had the Joy Indians hosting, and they wanted to incorporate a new set. So I think a lot of things that happen are like just because of the time that you're operating in, right? Like, someone comes up with an idea and you have to figure it out in under an hour in most cases. Like, something's missing, something has gone. I have 30 minutes. So you'll see a lot of people just being very enterprising about solutions. So literally, we've gone to social, found there was no stationery shop in BKC, and that time there was no Blinkit also.
So this must be way back, like
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, like it wasn't a full-fledged operational thing. Ki the 8 minute mein markers aa jayenge. We've stopped an auto guy on the side of the road. These guys have created like ad hoc signage on paper with one pen. We're shooting content for the show. Starts at like 5. We started shooting content at like 11 o'clock the night before, and we found like it's just random things. Obviously a lot of the ideas were theirs, but it's just like the execution, all of us are like, hold up 1 second, there is no stationery shop, like dumb shit like that. So you'll see a lot of that happen. You'll see a lot of well-organized panic is how I like to look at it.
That is a great phase.
Yeah.
Well-organized panic.
Yeah, dude, one of the best things and the greatest moments I've had of learning is I was, I think 19 or 20, and there used to be this IP that ran in Delhi called Gig Week. And it was like a 1 week thing where they would take on different venues in the city. So new venue every day, new programming, new everything. So there were 3 guys who used to run it, and one day I think we're on like day 4 or day 5, and we find out that the venue for the next day has lost their liquor license, and there's some like issue with this thing, and I don't know, some logistical permission issue was happening, and I didn't know all of this. I was helping out with like artists and bands and food and whatever, and then I come downstairs and I see these 3 boys sitting on the staircase and laughing. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, what's happening? Because the show's on inside, and I just see them like, and they're like, oh, the venue has like permissions have gone through, and we have to find a new venue, which means that we have to find new sound, and it's a heavy week, so a lot of the riders have been, like all of the equipment is on rent somewhere and whatever. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, why are you laughing? Because I was 19, right? I was like, to me this seems like a stress point, not a. And they just looked at me and said, this is normal. And I was like, what do you mean this is normal? And now I think I understand. It's just like, dude, when you work in this industry, the best thing you can do is organize yourself well enough that panic doesn't feel panic.
Okay.
Even if there's an emergency or there's some, your structures and your processes and whatever are so clear that even in the face of like something going wrong, it doesn't freak you out. So that is my goal in life.
And since you moved to being an entrepreneur full time, like I don't think you are an artist.
That's actually not true. I am not a entrepreneur full time. I still consult with agencies. I still work. So currently, I'm consulting with Big Bad Wolf. And yeah, I've consulted with Blueprint. I've consulted with Big Bad Wolf. The full-time entrepreneurship switch is yet to happen.
Okay.
But yeah.
But how has that changed a day in your life as an artist manager to now? I think it must be a lot different.
Okay. I don't think it's changed all that much because I've always juggled 3-4 things parallelly in my life. Whether it was work and dance, work and Artizen has been up and alive for this is our 5th year.
Right.
So, and I've never had like just Artizen running because I also think that being who I am as a manager and being in the industry is what gives Artizen its soul, right? Like because I actually am able to see a lot of the challenges firsthand. That's why Artizen is what it is today. So to me, they work hand in hand, which basically means that I unfortunately have a very unhealthy lifestyle, which I'm trying to fix now because I think artist management is not an easy job. You don't really have hours or whatever defined job roles the same way. It kind of just happens, and being an entrepreneur is exactly that, which means that I don't sleep as much as I should and I drink a lot of caffeine. But life has not really changed yet. I think I'm learning how to get better at my time management, and I'm learning how to get better at making like pockets of things. So drawing certain boundaries of being like, okay, if I'm going for dance class for 1 hour, then in that 1 hour I cannot do something else unless it's an emergency, or if I'm using my nights better for Artizen and for the things that I want to do, waking up much earlier, using my mornings because and then letting my day completely spiral with work that happens. But yeah, I think I'm just trying to get better at like management versus changing things drastically, because I don't think I'm ever going to be the person who says I'm just going to do one thing. Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, like at times when you feel like, let's just put these many more hours into the company. So how do you find that boundary? Because for me personally, this is something that I suck at, totally suck at, is that, I feel that everything might be an emergency, something or the other, like, or if I'm dealing with the clients, it's like, it's already running late. Let's just put in 2-3 more hours into it.
How do you define an emergency? The thing is, I've done this. Like I don't think I have your answer because I'm still figuring it out, and I'm very open about saying that to the people that I'm not I don't look at myself as being like an entrepreneur that has figured it all out in life. I really haven't. But I think that I don't know whether it's the space that I'm in or the life that I'm leading now, but I think that you realize that if you don't step back sometimes, you don't actually have the same answers. So my productivity in an emergency is actually higher if I have slept for 4 hours instead of 2 hours, for example. Yeah. Again, not saying I can do it. You will text me at 1 a.m., I'll be awake. But I'm just saying that, like, I think that's what I mean about learning, is that I think today, if you tell me, there's 6 decisions that need to be made. And there's so many frameworks for this, right? Like, I remember I don't remember the exact framework now, but someone had done this thing where, and I used to be obsessed with productivity hacks. My cheap thrill on Instagram is like planners and productivity hacks. So there used to be one where they used to make a grid of like 4, and I'll find this and maybe share it with you, and we can find the right way to do it. But essentially, it ranked things between urgent but not important, important but not urgent, and whatever, something like that, right? This grid that you make. And I think that is super, super important when you're looking at being an entrepreneur, because when it's your own thing, everything will always feel like I could do more, I could spend more time, I could think. But my quest in life today is to be a sustainable entrepreneur,
Right.
not just an entrepreneur. Because if I burn out, my company burns out with me, unless whatever, there's someone who comes in to save it or whatever. And so for me, it's about that. It's about being like a sustainable entrepreneur, which sometimes means saying, yaar, mere 2 ghante aur utne se kuch nahi hoga. But if I wake up tomorrow at 6 a.m., maybe I'm like better off for it. I'm also just like people, man. Like I think that having a very close circle of mirrors that will show you that like what your decision means and stands for. Like for me, it's my parents. They do not hesitate to tell me when I'm making a mistake. They don't hesitate to tell me if I'm burning out. They don't, if I have a good day, they'll tell me. And both of them luckily are also like, they both done their MBAs. They're both like marketing people. They're both, they're currently doing their PhDs at whatever age. And for me, they are very like honest people when it comes to my life, right? So I think that really changes things. Like someone will like pull you back and be like, listen, go to bed, because it'll still be the problem will still be here tomorrow, because the problems are never ending. So I think your own prioritization, and then just someone around you can be like, hey, it's okay, not do or die.
So, since we are moving towards the end, and you were talking about sustainability, being sustainable as
being a sustainable entrepreneur.
Do you think the concert economy in India is sustainable?
Oh wow, that's a switch back to thing.
Because there's so many shows happening. International acts are coming.
Yeah.
Indian acts are coming. But again, there's a massive guest list culture in India. People are not willing to buy tickets. The prices of tickets are drastically lower than other countries because again, the currencies and everything.
Sure.
But again, the artist would take the same amount of money roughly, I would say, and there would be a lot more production costs, if someone is coming from a country like, let's say, the United States. So even a massive Indian artist. So that thing is there. So do you think it can run for a long time?
Honestly, I don't know. This is something that I've been spending a lot of time with as well, in terms of what that looks like.
Yeah.
We'd like to hope and believe that this is sustainable, but I think that there's a little bit more of a moral, not moral, but there is maybe like a slightly higher accountability that I would place on artists themselves. And I think I said this somewhere else once, but one of the things that really stayed with me was something Rahul actually taught me a long time ago, where we would constantly place our artists in the position of selling tickets, just as an experiment, right? Now, let's say you are charging X amount of money, but you are unable to pull more than 500 tickets, and that 500 does not equal, or like that X amount does not exceed the value of 500 tickets, then on what basis am I demanding a certain fee? And this is not to say that it's like a straight up like A is equal to B. It's not. There's a lot of other factors that people put into, like pricing, market, all of that. But I think occasionally doing that experiment for yourself is something that supports the idea of a sustainable concert economy. I think pricing in general is something that like the biggest hit to most PNLs is also like, especially festivals, is that. But I also think that a lot of people as promoters and as festivals are actually getting smarter at negotiating those numbers, right? That difference between different points in the industry is also something that is enabling that economy. I think that actually we've moved away from guest list culture a little. I see a lot of people, not on the consumer side, but on the promoter side. I see so many stories of people who work in the industry posting stories of saying, hey, sorry, no guest list, buy a ticket, please come. And I think slowly people are also kind of recognizing that, because also the number of people directly engaged with the creative industry is increasing.
Right.
So the awareness and of just saying, okay, I see that it's hard for XYZ to sell a ticket, so you know what, I'll buy a ticket. I kind of see that shift happening around me a lot more. I also think that just people are willing to pay a little bit more for a better experience than they used to maybe like 8-9 years ago. So I don't think that it's an easy answer, but I think as an audience, I see a lot of people trying harder. Like Weekender was what, 20,000 people after a comeback essentially, and I don't think that there was as much. Sure, the prices were, I think, a little bit lower than they were maybe 4 years ago, but I don't see people complaining about that price point the same way. And then a John Mayer comes or a Coldplay comes and people are spending 20,000-30,000 bucks on it. So I think that also enables our ecosystem a little bit differently, because it's amazing to see us being able, like, I no longer have to buy a ticket to Southeast Asia or Europe to be able to see acts that I normally would have had to pay upwards of 2-3 lakhs if I'm considering like a full trip, right? And I think that awareness has also come in. So if I see that, it enables a Book My Show or a District or whatever to be able to create more. And so I don't know if pricing wise we're sustainable, but I think audience wise we're getting there.
So something on the pricing side. So as an audience, what happens is a lot of shows get put on. They price it at a higher price, and what happens is if the tickets don't sell out, they just reduce the prices. So as an audience,
there's a
lot of backlash also in that.
Oh, I bought it at a higher price.
Because even for Post Malone, I got the tickets for like 10,000. Same tickets, 6,000. 2 weeks after
Strange. See, I think that with international pricing, we're also figuring it out. Right? Like the fact is that a Post Malone concert should have sold at the same values that some of the other international artists were selling at. But supply and demand is something that we're constantly testing. Like, there's no way for us to know. But I don't know how many concerts that happens for, because I think now what we've started doing, or a lot of people around me started doing, is you have an early bird and you have a... because that way you know exactly what is selling, and your marketing to it is not... In fact, a lot of promoters will hesitate from doing that, because it also makes it look like what I said of like it's not selling.
Yeah.
And then it looks like a desperate attempt.
Like in a lot of events in the last 2 years. This is what I have noticed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, man, honestly, no one has figured out the pricing of every concert, right? Like I said, a Post Malone concert should have sold at similar values that any of the larger acts were selling at.
Yeah.
And so your best guess is based on what you see as market demand for an artist and a price range that other tickets are selling at. So data from other concerts, and you're seeing that, okay, this person is like, everyone's listening to him, or like, which is his largest market, data from Spotify or YouTube or whatever. But that's not 100% accurate to anything. So it's every promoter's guess at the end of the day that this would sell at that. And if it doesn't, then what are you going to do, man? You can't... If it's not selling, would you rather have the show? Maybe there's a possibility of building in like a refund, I don't know. But logistically, that's a nightmare. So I think it's all trial and error right now. And as there's more data and as there's more test cases, there'll be more accurate like pricing. So, yeah.
I think that was it from my side.
Okay, amazing.
Just one last quick thing.
Yeah.
would you like to name any of your favorite musicians that you listen, or any new artists that you have discovered recently?
Oh, wow. Honestly, I am currently obsessing over a couple of people from the Weekender lineup, which changed my life. I feel like I've Garvit Priyansh are these two guys who are, I think, they have a song called Kahe Mose, which has been very highly ranked on my Spotify right now. I loved what Rebel did at the show, and I think that was a set that, as an artist, that I'm just like, I love her energy and I love her power. I think I listened to Fahim live for the first time in my life, and I think that we know him from like Bollywood, but oh my god, his live set as an independent musician is stunning. I think there's a song called Sachdeva. Man was amazing, Man Pannu. I think just, oh my god, so many people, dude. Like, I think there's so much music.
Like, after the shoot,
I will make a playlist for Astrix and send it to you guys.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But I think this is kind of what just makes us do what we do, man. There's so much talent. It's insane.
One more thing. Like, the next edition of Weekender, I'll have to go because
100%.
It's so good. Like, yeah. I've never been to Weekender yet.
You must. It is literally, I think, and this is not even because I like work with them or whatever at some point, but they are, I think their tagline is the happiest music festival. And I think that for me and for a lot of people in the industry, it has always felt like that. So next time your tickets are on me.
Oh, that's fine. I'll support them. I'll get my tickets on them.
Don't guest list, guys. No, but I got you. Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. I think that's an end for us.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for taking the long route and coming over.
No, not at all. Thank you for having me. This was a great afternoon.
It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Likewise. Yay.